Welcome to the second week of our small group ministry here at Cross Lutheran Church and School. I'm so thankful that you are continuing to be a part of this, spending time together with God's people and spending time in His Word. If you know where to look around our Cross community, you will see lots of people who are showing God's love through what they do. Maybe you've stuck around between the worship services on a Sunday and you've noticed that there are people who have a bucket and a towel in their hand, and they're wiping down all of the backs of our pews and the places where people might touch their hands during a worship service, helping to serve each of us as we gather to worship God in His house. There's people who are elders and ushers who, whenever we get ready to go receive the Lord's Supper, make sure that we all have hand sanitizer on our hands. Not all of the ways that God's people serve are real glamorous things, but they are a way that we show forth the love of God to one another. Now, there was another man who showed his love for people through something a bit different that not many people do. The man's name was Jose Mujica, and he was elected to become the president of the country of Uruguay in South America. Now, when he was elected into that role as a public servant, part of the perk of the job was that he was going to be able to live in a luxurious home, a grand mansion fit for the president of the country. Well, instead of going to live in that beautiful home, he instead opted to live on a humble farm with his wife out in the countryside, where he wouldn't have to focus on all the rubbing elbows with the most important people or feeling like he was the most important person all the time. He chose to be humble and to focus on loving the people that he had been chosen to serve. You see, oftentimes our culture today, it teaches us, well, that we should love ourselves first of all. But if we are to love someone else, that love is all about emotion or about passion. But God's Word teaches us something different than what our culture often does. God's Word teaches us that love, true love, well, it first comes from God Himself. But that love that we express isn't just an emotional thing, that the love that we show forth is action. The love that we show forth, whenever it's the best reflection of God's love, looks a lot like humble service. And that's what Jesus is teaching His disciples and what you and your small group are about to read. It's a beautiful picture of the love of God for His people. If we want to see the love of God on its most clear display, we have to look at the event that Jesus was setting up whenever He was with His disciples on that night. We look to the cross, and we see Jesus there showing us the greatest love of God. Jesus teaches His followers how love must be at the very forefront of their community. And that's what He wants you and me to learn too, as we spend time in His Word together with our small groups. I pray that will be a blessing for you as God builds you up to be part of His community of love.